Business Wednesday live session. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A area and we will answer accordingly. Now, I would like to introduce to you our fearless leader, founder, and CEO, Miss Marie Gill.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you very much. Good morning, founder and CEO of M. Gill and Associates. It's a pleasure to host today's webinar. Welcome, everybody. My goodness, what a robust registration we have today. We have people from all over the country. We are so lucky to have folks who are so interested and keep coming back. And every time we host it on a Wednesday, we get new participants. So we welcome you. We're very happy that you're here. Get your pen and paper, your phone, your laptop, whatever, because you're going to get some great information today from our two fabulous guests who've been partners with us for years and years. We have Elijah Wooten, that is from the city of Port St. Lucie, but he has so much information to give. And of course, Carissa Russell with Valley Bank. 100 years. I had no idea Valley Bank was in business for so long. You've been hiding away, so now we're exposed to this great financial organization. But before we get to that, Heather, I just want to go ahead and thank our sponsors. The Jamaica USA Chamber of Commerce. I want to also thank the International Trade Consortium and the city of Miami, Miami-Dade Aviation Department, and the Economic Community Development Corporation, and of course, the city of Port St. Lucie, and Valley Bank, and a number of other folks who are not on the list today, but they're there as partners over the years. Wonderful, wonderful to have you join us. Okay, so next slide. M. Gill and Associates is an economic development consulting firm. And so we provide, we have been a government contractor for many, many years, almost 30 years. And actually, I think 32 years. And administering the Minority Business Development Agency's technical assistance programs here in Florida and throughout the country, whoever is interested, and also the US Virgin Islands. And we have amassed a list of folks that we've helped, over 20,000 businesses, because it's been a long time. And our portfolio is $7.4 billion with a B dollars that we have helped to facilitate for our clients, for businesses, for procurement, contracting opportunities, and financing over all those years. So we have a robust track record of accomplishments helping small minority women and veteran-owned businesses. So that's what we do. On the screen, I see export services. I guess Heather wants us to talk about the export services a little bit, because Elijah is going to talk about something else and Carissa is going to talk about something else. So let me just run down the list very quickly. Our export services, that's very, very important as a result of managing the MBDA's export center for so many years. We have become experts, so to speak, with our partners and resources. We develop export marketing plans, and we can get sales leads from across the country and globally. We facilitate and participate in various trade missions, whether they're inbound or outbound. The Gold Key service for Global Connection, that is in partnership with the SBDC, Best Product Service Market Reports, Those reports are done by another organization, and we make those available so that our businesses can see what is happening and what opportunities their product or service may have. Export insurance, we have to facilitate that. We have an MOU with Exim Bank that provides financing opportunities for exporters, and there are other companies and financial institutions that support export initiatives. Bonding, of course, we have a bonding agent that facilitates export as well. So boots on the ground connections in global market means that we have partners all over the world in different countries. Of course, we can't go and do all of this by ourselves. So it's the wonderful partners that we have across the globe that help us to really connect and get our businesses to know, okay, these are the countries that make sense for me, for my product, and for my service. So thank you, Heather, for the opportunity to talk about that. It's very important because there still is a very small percentage of US businesses that are exporting. And to be honest with you, the global market is where the money is and where the customers are. And we want to help you to connect. So you think about the numbers there, the website, the email. As we go along, you will see more information on that. Next slide, please, Heather. All right, so now we have, what a beautiful smile. This is Miss Carissa Russell. Oh, she's the first vice president of Valley Bank. And let me pull up her bio here. So Carissa Russell is a first vice president, market manager at Valley Bank with over 20 years of banking experience. See, she didn't just start. She has established her career in the branch by providing solutions for her clients and adding value to them. She studied business administration at Cambridge College and is currently pursuing her master's degree in finance at Louisiana State University. Carissa was recently nominated to join the National Society of Leadership and Success. Hey, that's good. She is also an ambassador for Valley's Women in Business program, which brings together women entrepreneurs everywhere to network. Okay, I lost you, Carissa. Let me grab that again. Entrepreneurs everywhere to network and grow their businesses. Her goal is to continue to provide solutions to her clients, empower other women to follow their dreams, and inspire young professionals looking to pursue a career in banking. So thank you so much for being here, Carissa, and now I'll invite you to take it away and tell us what you got.
Good morning, Miss Gill. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Before I jump into my presentation, I want to say thank you and Heather for the opportunity to talk about what I'm passionate about and to hopefully add some value to today's webinar. And I didn't know you were going to present before me. I mean, that's a hard act to follow, but I'll do my best.
No. Don't think of it like that. You know, we're the host and we like to brag about who we are and what we do. So,
I know. No, but I really appreciate the opportunity to join today's webinar and to share what I love to do and to share about Valley Bank and what we're doing in the community. So thank you again for the opportunity. But just to give you a little bit of a background before I jump into the PowerPoint presentation, I'm originally from the beautiful island of Jamaica. I came here as a teen, so I started high school there. I attended St. Andrew High for girls. And then I graduated here during high school, graduated at 16, because, you know, in Jamaica, we don't go to middle school. We go from primary school to high school. So I graduated very early, very young. And at that time, I was trying to figure out what do I want to do? I love people. I love being, you know, around people and networking and all that good stuff. And I always had a knack for business because both my parents were entrepreneurs. And I started studying computers, and I quickly realized that's not for me. I'm not the kind of tech person behind a computer for 14 hours a day. That wasn't me. So I switched my studies to business, and you know, banking kind of fell into my lap. Before I migrated to the United States, I would travel every summer to spend summers with my cousins and my aunts. And during that time, I got attracted to the hospitality industry. I was going to be a flight attendant, and you know, hopefully meet a pilot one day, marry, and live happily ever after. But that's not how it turned out. But I love what I do. I started studying business and got into banking very early. I was 18 when I started my banking career. I worked for Flagstar Bank for 18 years, managed the, you know, several branches in Palm Beach County. Before I accepted the opportunity in Valley, I was leading the West Boca Chamber of Commerce. So a lot of experience. Majority of my career, well, all my career in banking has been in the branch. But currently, as a market manager, my role is I partner with small businesses to help them grow strategically, not just by opening their accounts, but understanding their cash flow, their lending needs, and also their long-term goals. So, you know, I try to ensure that they have the right financial tools to manage their businesses efficiently. So that's mainly what I do as a market manager. I'm going to jump into the presentation and share some information about Valley Bank and what we do in the community. So in 2027, we'll be celebrating our 100-year anniversary. So we're headquartered out of Morristown, New Jersey. We operate in New York, New Jersey, Alabama, Florida, and California. We've grown by acquisition in the last 99 years. So this is just some background information. We're a regional size bank. So we're about 63 billion in assets. So you have an idea as far as the size. We have over 230 branch locations throughout the 6 areas that I mentioned. And we're a full service financial institution. So we offer your everyday accounts like your checking, your savings, your CDs, your money market, both for business and personal. But lending is really our bread and butter. We have done a lot of commercial real estate lending. That's kind of where we established our footprint and our name. And we also do lending from the small mom and pops all the way up to the big companies. And the one thing I love about Valley is we do everything in-house. So we have our in-house lenders. I myself process loans up to 100,000. That does not require full financials. And then we have additional lenders depending on the type of business and the type of loan that you're looking for, including SBA. We're a direct lender with the SBA, so we also have a complete, you know, SBA program to help our small businesses, whether you're looking to, you know, acquire a new business, expand, or you're just getting started. So we do everything in-house, from underwriting, credit, risk, management. We control the entire process from start to finish.
Wonderful.
So again, this is just some background information as far as our size. We're a public traded company on the NASDAQ, and that is our sign. 1927 is when we started, and that's just kind of gives you some information about our size. We have over 4,000 employees and over 200 plus locations and ATMs.
I think we'll wait until the Q&A, but just for a quick question here, I think people are interested in, okay, what can I get from Valley Bank? Do you have a special small business financing program where they can borrow up to so much? What are how competitive are your interest rates, and so forth? And I'm very interested in the women's program. I knew about it, but I'm happy to know that Valley is doing that. But do you have any information on specific lending programs?
Yes. So part of it is in my presentation, but yes, we do have a small business lending program that offers you up to $100,000. That does not require full financials. So what are full financials? When you come to the bank for a loan, we generally want to see 3 years of personal and business tax returns, income statement, balance sheet, debt schedule, and interim financials, right? We just ended first quarter, so that's generally what we ask for to do a full traditional underwriting. We do have a couple of programs that are streamlined. This one particularly that I'm going to share kind of started in COVID because there was just such a great need for lending and for business owners to continue their business. And we know not everyone was prepared based on what we saw. So instead of, you know, turning people away because they weren't prepared with the right financials, we started this program. So to qualify, you need at least a 680 credit score. And we just ask for 3 months bank statement. And we kind of use that as the qualifier for the loan. Now it is tiered based on how long you've been.
Carissa, we lost your sound.
Oh my goodness, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm not sure what happened there. So yes, to answer your question, Ms. Gill, we do have a small business lending program where we lend up to 100,000 to small business in the community. It does not require full financials. All we ask for is 3 months bank statements, and you need at least a 680 credit score to qualify.
Okay, that's great to hear. All right. All right. So thank you very much. I'm sure there will be, well, I'm not sure, but we hope that there will be some questions for you in the Q&A session. Are you finished or?
Absolutely. I just have a couple more slides, but these are just some of the services that we offer. So we do offer a variety of different types of loans and services to run your business as a small business owner. We offer a working line of credit, term loans, equipment. If your business is one that uses equipment, we do special equipment financing, letters of credit if your business need it. Although, you know, if you have a delivery truck or you have a transportation, we do auto loans for personal and business vehicles as well. And I wanted to just address a question you asked earlier as far as how we compare and how competitive we are in the marketplace. So as I mentioned earlier, we control the entire process from start to finish. So we're the decision makers. So we're not in competition with anyone. What we generally do is we take a holistic approach, and we are a relationship bank. So we don't just want to help you with your initial need. We look at the whole picture, and we want to help you with where your goals and where you're going. So we are very competitive with the interest rate because we're not going outside to ask for someone to make the decision for us. We're the ones doing it. So we can be flexible in that regard.
Okay, I like to hear that, like maybe below market rate a little.
I don't know about below market, but we do our best to stay competitive.
Well, you and Elijah have a lot to talk about because, you know, the space that he's in, I can see both of you doing business together. All right.
100%. We have done a lot with the city of West Palm, the city of Miramar. We've partnered with them, and I've helped a lot of business owners in the community get financing, expand their business, purchase a building. So we're very entrenched, very involved in the community. So Elijah, we have we have to set up a meeting and see how we can work together to help our business owners in the community.
I agree.
That's what it's all about. Well, thank you so much, Carissa. So stick around. You know, we'll come back to you, I'm sure, later on. Let's move on to thank you. So Elijah, oh my goodness, it's always great to see you, Elijah. Let me just give the folks something to chew on as far as your background is concerned. Elijah L. Wooten Jr. has spent more than a quarter century standing at the intersection of vision, community, and economic possibility. His journey began not in a boardroom, but in neighborhoods across Miami-Dade and Broward counties, where he helped minority entrepreneurs turn ideas into viable businesses, preparing loan packages, writing business plans, and walking side by side with founders who simply needed someone to believe in their potential. How cool is that? That early work shaped his philosophy. Economic development is not just about buildings and incentives, it's about people, opportunity, and the courage to build something that lasts. Elijah carried that belief into leadership roles across South Florida. As Vice President of Business and Industry for the Broward Alliance, he helped secure major corporate expansions, Spirit Airlines, WTVJ Channel 6, Andrex Pharmaceutical, JM Family Enterprises, big guys, projects that reshaped regional employment and investment. But his most transformative chapter unfolded in the public sector. In the city of Lauderhill, Elijah built the Office of Economic Development from the ground up. I remember Elijah established the Lauderhill CRA, Community Reinvestment Area, and launched programs that connected local businesses to training, visibility, and capital. He didn't just manage economic development, he architected an ecosystem, okay? Today, an economic development administrator for the city of Port St. Lucie, Elijah continues to champion growth that strengthens communities. He has facilitated major commercial projects, coordinated complex development reviews, and secured a $3 million Florida Job Growth Grant to expand infrastructure at the Tradition Center for Commerce. His leadership helped retain and expand major employers like TAMCO and Oculus Surgical, bringing new high-wage jobs and tens of millions in capital investment to the region. Elijah also launched the Port St. Lucie Business Accelerator Program, training more than 40 entrepreneurs and awarding over 40,000 in small business grants. Proof that his commitment to grassroots business development has never wavered, that's for sure. Across every role, Elijah has been a connector, linking government to industry, entrepreneurs to resources, and communities to opportunity. His work has earned national recognition, including being named one of Ebony Magazine's 30 leaders, 30 under 30. More than titles or accolades, Elijah is driven by a simple belief. When you invest in people, you transform cities. And when you transform cities, you change futures. Elijah, I know that's a little bit lengthy, but I really had to go into it because I am so impressed. There is so much that you have done for the South Florida community, for the businesses. We are so proud of you. We're very happy to have you on the program today. So what else can you tell us? What's going on in Port St. Lucie? Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Marie. Thank you. So I previously served as the Economic Development Administrator for the city of Port St. Lucie. I have a new role now with KW Commercial as a commercial realtor, but I'm still passionate to see businesses in South Florida and the Treasure Coast excel and expand. So personally, I'm from Florida, Pompano Beach native. I went to school at Hampton University, and my first job actually was working for Reed Gill at the Minority Business Development Center as a marketing consultant. So Heather, I have firsthand experience of how much Ms. Gill is a champion for a minority business, and I'm so proud of the work that you've done over these 35 years. You're still dedicated to see businesses grow and prosper, not only locally but internationally. And as Marie indicated, my career has been both in private sector and public sector. So today I want to kind of talk a little bit about Port St. Lucie. Now, when I joined the city, at the time it was 2017, and I think the population may have been close to maybe 200,000. Now in 2026, it's 260,000. And so over that period of time, 60,000 new residents have moved to Port St. Lucie. A lot of the growth came actually as part of the pandemic. A lot of people from the Northeast and other parts of the U.S. moved to Florida because we were one of the first states to reopen. But then also we saw a lot of people move from South Florida to Port St. Lucie, not just for pandemic reasons, but also affordability. Although the prices have increased, still relative to South Florida, Port St. Lucie is still relatively affordable. And so what I would find, even driving into work, because I live in Palm Beach, but worked in Port St. Lucie, the commute going north, there weren't as many vehicles, of course, versus the commute coming south. A lot of folks were coming down south to work from Port St. Lucie County, Fort Pierce, and the reverse, on the way home, a lot of folks were going back up north. So, what's kind of transpired over the course of time, I never forget, Marie, when I was working at the NBDC earlier in the 90s, the South Florida community was a little more insulated. If you worked in Miami-Dade, you didn't really do a lot of business in Broward. If you worked in Broward, you didn't really do a lot of business in Miami-Dade. It was kind of more insulated. But what you found over time is it's become more regional, akin to like in Atlanta or other areas where people might work in one county but live one or two counties away. And so I kind of look at South Florida and the Treasure Coast almost as a region, because we're sharing workforces, we're sharing, commerce. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about, the more recent experience in the industrial market in Port St. Lucie. Next slide, Heather. So at a high level, as I said before, in 2017, when I started with the city, it didn't really have a lot of industrial space, mainly some pockets of industrial in St. Lucie West and in the Village Green area on the east side of town, but not large tracts of land for development. And in 2018, the city took possession of 1,200 acres in an area that's known as Tradition, or which we call locally Southern Grove, which the city council determined to be its jobs corridor. And over the last 6 years, that 1,200 acres, which initially, when we had consultants from the Urban Land Institute kind of forecast how long it would take to absorb all that space, they assumed it would take like 20 years, like St. Lucie West. But of the 1,200 acres, I believe only like less than 200 acres remains available. The majority has been absorbed by large companies, some of which Marie mentioned, like Tamco and Oculus Surgical, but also companies like Excel International and distribution companies like FedEx, Amazon, Cheney Brothers, and most recently the Costco distribution depot, which will cover all the stores in Florida. And also north of the Tradition area in the Midway Business Center, there was a 1 million square foot Amazon fulfillment center built. And so when you look at the total inventory, of the 35.4 million square feet, almost 9 million of that came as a part of the pandemic. The 1.5 million in the pipeline, a lot of that is projects that are what I would call legacy projects. These may have been projects that were already approved that are going through the development process, and also of those is the Costco depot, which will, when complete, will be a 1.8 million square foot facility. Now, what happened during the pandemic years, you had a lot of big businesses moving to not just Port St. Lucie, but Fort Pierce and the county. The good news was a lot of them were single user occupants. And so, for the companies that needed 1 million square feet, like the Amazons or the Costcos, day one, they were 100% occupied because the building was built just for them. But with that, you also had a lot of investment from developers that was speculative, where they would build these 1 million square foot or 500,000 square foot, 200,000 square foot, et cetera, buildings, but they would be built spec. So they didn't have end users. And so in 2024, some of that development started to taper off. And at that time, you had a vacancy of around 18%. It's being absorbed, but not at the rapid pace that it once was. So we're sitting around 16% vacancy. And again, the annual rent growth is still stable, but it's increasing about 2.3%. Next slide, Heather. And so this kind of shows in graphic terms the build up, the flood to the market, and now what I call the digestion. And so again, as you look at 2020, 2021, and 2022, a lot of these large scale projects, they were announced, but they were going through the planning, site plan, permitting process, and coming out of the ground. And then really between 2022 to 2024 is when you had the boom and all these buildings that were now lining I-95, not only in Port St. Lucie, but Fort Pierce and St. Lucie County. Now on the tail end in 2026, again, the new supply is now waning, so you're not getting a lot of new buildings. The buildings that you're seeing are what I, again, call legacy projects that they were approved, but they were projects that had to go through site plan and permitting and still are being built, but not a lot of new inventory after that. Next slide, Heather. Now, one of the things that our Economic Development Council noted, especially earlier in the process when we took possession of the 1,200 acres, was just the position where Port St. Lucie is. I mean, it's right between Miami and Orlando, so it's 2 hours to the north, 2 hours, to the south. But within that, you can reach a lot of the state of Florida if you're in logistics, and so I believe that's also what helped attract more companies coming to the area, because they were looking at, the growth and how you could move and distribute products easily throughout the state or the Southeast region. And so I think that's what brought the capital, to the Treasure Coast. And so it's not just Port St. Lucie, Martin County, also in our surrounding counties and Indian River have experienced the growth. But I think that's one of the things that really stood out as we positioned Port St. Lucie, because prior to obtaining the 1,200 acres, you didn't really have a lot of groove for new construction. You had existing buildings, but not large tracts of land for industrial development. But that didn't open up some demand. And so this kind of just gives a snapshot of the demand drivers that led to the boom during the pandemic. Next slide. And as I said again, when you look at the prior years, you had at the peak, 5.6 million square feet that was under development. Now you have around 790,000 square feet, again, under development. So you're getting smaller projects, smaller spaces, not these large warehouse buildings. And you kind of have a dichotomy where you have these large businesses, but again, they were tied to kind of a once in a lifetime pandemic where everyone sat home and ordered products, and you had supply constraints, and so you had a lot of demand for logistics. Since that has now waned, you're kind of getting more back to the basics, but still for these smaller units, you have still mom and pop shops that need flex space, warehouse space, for their businesses. And so again, I think those products are going to be still in demand. Next slide. So, again, right now the main pipeline dominator is the Costco Depot. They have a dry storage. This is the first phase of their development, and that should be open by the end of December. And then they also will have another building that will be slightly larger. So it's going to be 1 million square feet. So it's going to be around 1.8 million square feet total that they're going to build this depot. So one of the things that is interesting with Costco, earlier in the process, they were meeting with FP&L, but they didn't know if they could deliver the power needs that they had at the time that they needed. And so this facility, this 1.8 million square foot depot, actually will be off the grid. And so they actually will have their own solar power that will generate this property. And one of the things that I found interesting with the boom in Port St. Lucie with industrial and logistics, is a total opposite of what the city previously did, where they tried to bring in certain industries, but the infrastructure wasn't there in terms of the labor and demand. They had VGTI, which was a research facility. This is at the time when Jeb Bush was the governor, and there was a big push to bring research and development to the state of Florida. And then they also had Digital Domain, which was a post-production building company. Unfortunately, both didn't survive and went under. The city council at that time actually backed those projects, and so those were legacy economic development projects that, fortunately, through the growth in the jobs corridor and a rapid acquisition of property, they've been able to successfully pay down a good chunk of that debt. But I think also what has been part of the success, the labor market, is there. And so you have the jobs that now the residents can participate in, whether it's in manufacturing or logistics. One thing I also found in St. Lucie County is it's very, pro-business. And so between our Economic Development Council, the school board for St. Lucie County, Indian River State College, and even our nonprofits like the Boys and Girls Club, there's a synergy, to work together to create jobs, for residents. They're looking at ways from, K through 12 to getting your first job, of how do you make those, connections, how do you provide the training, how do you align with the business community to understand, what their needs are. So when Indian River State College is putting together their programming, it's aligned with what's in demand for the business community, not just, degrees of theory that they cannot land jobs. So I think that also attributed to the success, of the Jobs Corps and the jobs that are coming to St. Lucie County and Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce. Next slide. So, again, when you look at, where the friction lives right now, you have about 22% vacancy in logistics, about 10% vacancy in flex, and then specialized industrial around 8.1% vacancy. So again, you do have companies that are still absorbing all these spaces. So Excel International, you have 350,000 square feet that, it's been absorbed. Also within Martin County, 190,000 square feet absorbed, and also 136,000 square feet. So there is still, demand. There's still companies that are coming to the area. It's just, the pandemic was a once in a lifetime occurrence. So you're not going to see, those types of numbers now, but you are going to see a steady flow of businesses coming to the area. Next slide. And so, again, right now the city's rent growth is at around 2.3%, which is still doing better than the US rent growth at 1.2%. And the asking price for industrial right now is around $13.31 per square foot. So they still are experiencing a premium. And I think a lot of it had to do with the product. A lot of these were Class A industrial, buildings, a lot of new construction. And again, with flex space, it's not just a warehouse, but you can also put in, office or other things that are going to be a little more top shelf that people are willing to pay a premium for. Next slide. And as far as the investment climate, I think it's still positive. In terms of the sales volume, you had 261 million total volume in sales, which equates to about $136 per square foot. And the investor profile, you still have a lot of private investment. You have a lot of local investment, as well as companies. Again, this was an opportunity for companies to own their building instead of leasing their building. And again, because you had so much land available at a relatively affordable price, I think that's what gravitated them to Port St. Lucie. Next slide. And again, the cap rates, and again, it's your net operating income divided by your sales price. It's still relatively better than the U.S. market at 7.7% cap rate versus the 7.3% cap rate. And again, the largest transaction, you had the Interstate Commerce Center in Fort Pierce. That building was 211,000 square feet and sold for $38 million, which is about $181 a square foot. Next slide. And again, this kind of just gives the an update on the submarket in terms of Fort Pierce, Martin County, and St. Lucie County inland. And so, again, for Port St. Lucie, this would be a growing area. Some of these other areas are more established, but it kind of just gives the inventory that we currently have and then the pipeline of new projects coming on board. Next slide. And so, as I said again, right now we're kind of in a digestion period, in that we have to absorb all this new construction that's been occurring over the last 6 years, and so it still requires the Economic Development Council, the Chamber of Commerce groups like NGIL, to continue to market the area to attract and retain local businesses and as well as national companies. But the good news is that you have now something to work with, because again, when I started in 2017, that was one of the challenges the Economic Development Council had, is even if they had interest, they couldn't put businesses any place because they had older warehouse buildings that couldn't accommodate these differing sized users. And so that's one good thing now, that you do still have ample product available for businesses. So again, it's still a great community, and I'm only covering right now the industrial side of it, but it also has a ripple effect in the retail side, because complementing the job growth, as I said before, you had 60,000 residents move into the city over that 6-year period. And initially I thought it was people that are going out west to Tradition or these large developments with GL Homes and Pulte, but you also had a lot of infill development where houses were being built. Port St. Lucie is 121 square miles, so it's a relatively large, community. When it was established, it was in 80 square miles, and was established through the General Development Corporation, or GDC. And so they basically carved, quarter-acre lots throughout these 80 square miles. And so you had a lot of land that was still in neighborhoods. They just hadn't been built. And so over time, now that they had demand, you saw more and more infill housing in addition to, the developments out west. But what has happened also is it brought the incomes up. And so most recently, for years, Port St. Lucie residents kept saying they want a Costco. They want a Costco. Why can't we have a Costco? We don't want to keep going to Palm Beach Gardens, to shop at Costco's. And lo and behold, now they have a property under contract to build a Costco. At the time when we were in talks with Costco, they said, well, we need households with an average income of $200,000, and you had some in Port St. Lucie, but you just didn't have as many as you had in South Florida. Likewise, when you look at St. Lucie County, which is Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce, St. Lucie County, they still don't have a lot of people. They have a population of about 400,000 folks or less. So for retailers that are looking for a certain amount of density and a certain amount of income, it may have been too soon. But now, because of the influx of new residents, and these new residents, even though they're going into 55 plus communities, they're still working. They still are gainfully employed, and so they're bringing that disposable income to Port St. Lucie, which is on the flip side bringing more demand for retail, in the city as well. And so, but it's a really cool community. I definitely enjoyed my time working there. Just changing business cards and lapel pins, but I'll be on the private side, helping businesses grow. But thanks again for the opportunity, Marie.
Yes, Elijah, you blew me away, man. What a presentation. So this is the place to be. Wow. Okay, thank you so much. This place has grown, because I remember when you took us on a tour of the opportunities. Even since then, there are new things that I see you talking about here now. This is wonderful. I'm gonna give a chance to Heather. If you would please let us know if we have any questions.
Yes.
For Carissa or Elijah. Thank you, Heather. Go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Gill. All right, so the first question here goes to Carissa. Are there any specific industries or business type that Valley Bank does not support?
So the bank looks at lending in the form of risk, just like anything, right? So we are willing to take a look at any business. We're willing to take a look at your financials before we absolutely say no. But anything that is very risky, the bank, you know, like any bank would actually take a second, take a different approach, or not look at it. But we're willing to take a look at anything first before we say no.
Yeah.
One-
I know that a lot of our construction companies are always very interested in whether or not, you know, they can obtain the financing, because it's been a little hard. But construction, you're cool with construction as long as the criteria are met.
Correct. It's not a one size fit all. You
Yeah.
know, we've done some we've made some exceptions over the years, and that's how we've been able to be successful. You know, not everybody fits in that box. So we'll take a look at it. And yes, we've helped construction companies get the job done.
Very
So
good.
yes.
Very good. Thank you. Elijah, Heather?
Yes. So the next question also for Carissa. My business is growing, but cash flow is tight. What financing options are best for managing growth without over leveraging?
So again, that would require a one-on-one meeting to take a look at the business, to take a look at the financials. But SBA has become a very popular option for business owners that are looking to grow and expand. But you know, as I said earlier, we do offer some financing that does not require the full financials. We just look at your bank statement, and as long as you qualify with a 680 credit score, then you're able to have access to financing. So whoever that is, Heather, if you could please provide them with my contact information, I'd be happy to have a one-on-one with them.
Sure, well, that jumps to the next question, which is pretty much connected. I am a small mom and pop shop and looking for working capital. Is the eligibility the same as the programs mentioned earlier, or a different set of criteria?
So the criteria are the same. And again, it all depends on what you're looking for, what financing you're looking for, and the amount. So again, I would love to have a one-on-one to see, you know, what the need is, and also to explore the different options for financing. That program that I talked about only goes up to 100,000. So again, it depends. Are you looking for 100,000? Are you looking for 50,000? Are you looking to just, you know, because South Florida is so seasonal. So we know that now we're going into April and May, things are starting to slow down in certain industries. Are you looking for working capital to cover you during those slow periods? So again, I'd have to meet with that business owner one-on-one and explore the options available.
Okay, thank you, Carissa. All right, this one is for Elijah. Port St. Lucie is a booming market, especially with all the construction. Are there any types of properties that are currently in highest demand for small businesses in the area?
That's a great question. I think, like I said before, you know, industrial properties still are in high demand. The smaller unit flex space, you know, seems to be going pretty well. Office-wise, it's mainly medical office more so than like corporate office that I've seen in Port St. Lucie. And then, you know, for a lot of mom and pops, you know, we still have a pretty robust, you know, retail market. Some of the growing areas, in addition to Tradition in St. Lucie West, Gatlin Boulevard, you know, also has some new retail that has been coming up, and it's still relatively, you know, affordably priced. And then also on US 1, another property that's within the city's CRA was previously called City Center. It's now Walton and 1. And so there are going to be some new opportunities there for mixed use developments. For those who followed the news the last few months, there is the PSL Sports Club, which is a soccer club that's going to be housed at Walton 1. So they're actively in the development process now, but then there are going to be some adjoining, you know, mixed use properties in that area along, you know, US 1. One thing I did forget to mention as I got into my presentation, so this information I provided is through CoStar, and so that's a service that provides information on real estate as well as available, you know, properties. And the other two things I want to mention, the city does have some ongoing programs supporting small businesses. And so if you are in the market to look at commercial space in Port St. Lucie, they have a quarterly before you sign a lease workshop where they bring together the Chamber of Commerce, their Planning and Zoning Department, the Business Tax Office, and the Building Department. and they all kind of give you an overview of what's required to open a business in a commercial location in Port St. Lucie. And that was really the genesis of that was, speaking with business owners who would sign a lease to then find that, the city didn't allow that use at that location or required city council approval, which was a lengthier process and more money, or just it was cost prohibitive. By the time they got to the building department, they looked at the change of occupancy from what the prior use was to what they intended to do. It was just cost prohibitive. And so, before you sign a lease is a great opportunity to speak, with the staff and to understand what the requirements are. I believe the next one they have is July 1st, and that's held in the community center. And then the other program that's ongoing is the Business Accelerator program that's done in conjunction with Indian River State College, which is held twice a year in the fall and the spring. And so it's a 10-week course, only $25, but for businesses that participate and are in Port St. Lucie with the current business tax receipt, they're eligible to apply for a small business grant up to $5,000. And so that information, as well as the before you sign a lease, can be found on the city's website. And then lastly, for those who are looking to do business with the city, under our procurement page, the city does use GovQA for its platform for procurement. And so and I'm sure that Marie, Heather, and the team at MGIL can help you with that as well, if you're in the market. But there's a lot of growth, but there's a lot of funding that's allocated to public safety through our police department, as well as public works and utilities, because it's build it and they will come, but the challenge is they're building it as they're coming. So they gotta install all these roads and infrastructure with these active projects. And so if you're in that space where you do work with infrastructure, there's great opportunities. Procedurally wise, the departments are finalizing their request to the city manager for his request to the city council for the upcoming budget. And then in July is when they have their budget hearings. And so once that's published, you can gain access to the upcoming budget to see where opportunities are.
Cool.
All right. This question says, I am a drywall contractor in Miami-Dade County. Are the opportunities only available to Port St. Lucie businesses? And how do we get connected to the Casco cold dry storage project?
So for if you're a drywall, you'd have to go to our building department to get registered with the city to do business. If you're going to do permitting in Port St. Lucie, so the fact that you're in Miami-Dade doesn't prohibit you, from doing business in Port St. Lucie. With regards to Casco, so normally when projects are announced, they are announced probably 2 years before they come out of the ground. Our Economic Development Council, or EDC, they're the ones that are more aligned with the end user. So they're the ones that do the marketing for St. Lucie County. They get in touch with the site selectors and the consultants. They attend the various site selection, conferences. And in the early stage, that's kind of once they announce it is when they are building their teams. What I've noticed is with projects that have come to the city, professional engineers or architects or folks that are part of that team, are part of the EDC. And so, depending on where your business is and how much you want to get involved, getting involved with a group, like the Economic Development Council, I think would be a good first step, because they're the ones that, know firsthand who's coming into the community. And as these companies that are not from here are coming into the community, some of the team they will bring with them, but some of the team they will hire local, and they're going to look to groups like the EDC to help navigate, who they should be speaking with. So saying that, because Casco Depot is an active construction project, there still may be opportunities, but again, I would, still coordinate with the EDC. If it's something you wish to do, and it's youredc.com is their website where you can find more information on the organization. But again, each community has their own version, of an EDC. And so if you're in Miami-Dade, it would be the Beacon Council. If you're in Broward County, it would be the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance. If you're in Palm Beach County, it would be the Palm Beach Business Development Board. If you're in Martin County, it'd be the Martin Business Development Board. And, in St. Lucie County, the Economic Development Council. And so if you're wanting to get involved in large scale projects as a small business, that might be something that you may want to take a look at to get involved with those types of groups, because those are the ones that know firsthand when projects are coming. The challenge, however, is once the public knows and they're driving and seeing the new construction, the contracts have already been awarded.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you, Elijah.
Welcome.
This one is for Carissa. If a business wants to expand into a new market but lacks collateral, what alternatives are available?
Heather,
Yes, Ms. Gill?
you're looking at the screen. Carissa stepped away. Do you
Okay.
have anything more for Elijah?
Yes, I do. Just to repeat, Elijah, I know you answered this in your response previously. Where can I find contracting opportunities in Port St. Lucie?
Sure. Well, if it's specific to the city, that would be through our procurement management division. And they use GovQA as their process, the way they process their solicitations. And they have instructions on how to register to become a vendor, with the city. So specific to Port St. Lucie, the procurement department or division would be the main source that does the solicitations on behalf of the city. If it's connecting and being involved with the business community, then you again have a couple of options. A lot of it still is going to be network based, and so you'll have to get involved with the different groups that align with what you're trying to accomplish and build the network. If you're in housing, the Treasure Coast Builders Association would be a great space because they have a lot of general contractors, developers, subcontractors that are in the housing field that are part of that group. If you're in manufacturing, then the Treasure Coast Manufacturers Association, again, would be a great space because they work with the manufacturers and all the different companies that service the manufacturing industry. If you're looking more for small business development, St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce would be a good fit to network amongst other small businesses. And again, the Economic Development Council or EDC, if you're looking more at the mid-sized to large companies. So you kind of have to look to see, where you're looking to market your product and service, but then more importantly, you really have to be at a point where you can do business development, because sometimes I've seen small business owners prematurely get involved with these groups, but if you're doing everything now, you really aren't in a position to network. You have to really build the business to a point where you have someone who could carry it on while you do the business development, because I think that's when you really see the fruits of the labor, when you can have time to get involved and to market your services through some of these organizations.
Thank you, Elijah. I have no further questions, Ms. Gill.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Elijah. Thank you, Heather. So, I mean, wow. We're gonna be talking though. All right. Okay. Yeah. Next slide, Heather. We don't have Medweek. Yeah. Okay, we just want to announce that our 44th Regional Medweek will occur this year in November. So we want you to save the date, and we'll send this flyer when we do the thank you to everyone as well. But it will be November 19th. This year is the first time we're hosting Medweek in November, but we had to, based on a shift in various programs with Broward and Miami-Dade that we connect with. So we just want you to save the date. We're going to be talking about access to capital, access to contract, and access to global markets. That is what our focus. At most of what we do, we focus on how you get the money, how you get the contract, and how you get the exporting opportunities, and how we can help you. So please save the date, put that in your calendar. Next, Heather. Okay, so we're at the end of the program. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we hope you took notes and look out for the follow-up. Thank you, Elijah. Wow. Carissa, you have a lot of programs we need to talk about, and we all are connected in some way. You need me, I need you. You need each other. This is wonderful. And we're all involved with helping the small minority and women-owned business community and veteran-owned businesses as well. So I want to thank you for what you do and for being a partner with us. And we want to thank all of you for joining the program. Please, if you need information from Heather or me or one of our consultants, you can email marie@mgillonline.com or admin@mgillonline.com, or you can call 786-515-0670. We're helping businesses survive and thrive. And of course, your success is our priority. So we want to thank our guests again, Elijah Wooden and Carissa Russell. And thank you all for joining today's program. And thank you, Heather, in the background, taking care of our logistics for this presentation. All right, until next time, God bless you. Take care of yourself. Take care of your business. And to your success, we're happy to be of service. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.